Hey, what's up, Rehabbers across the world? Welcome to today's episode of Straight Up. Today, I am talking about something that you need to hear, especially if you're trying to build your brand. I am talking about 5 mistakes not to make when it comes to building your brand. Listen, people ask me questions all the time. Trent, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I build a brand? How do I become a better speaker? How do I do this? And all these things. And I said, man, you know what? I want to start answering you guys' questions directly. So I want to add this segment of Straight Up to answer your questions. So if you have a question, comment below, hit me on Instagram, put in the comments on YouTube, whatever it may be. Also, this is probably the best way to do it. Send me a text to 817-242-2719, my text community. Use the keyword hashtag, not the word hashtag, but the symbol hashtag questions, and ask your question. Therefore, I can look at those questions and I can create podcast episodes to be able and hopefully answer your questions. I want to get right into this. I don't want to make these episodes long. I want to get right to the meat. I want to get right to the real. I want to get right to being straight up with you. 5 mistakes, okay? I made some of these mistakes. Some of these mistakes I didn't make that really helped me, but I've seen other people make these mistakes, and I don't want you to make these mistakes. I could talk about 30 things, but I want to talk about things that's really going to help you protect your peace when building your brand, when building your business, when going on this journey of life that a lot of people don't talk about, right? We can talk about the little business tactics and all that, but I want to make sure that as you're going on this journey, that you're not stressed, that you're not overwhelmed because you're doing these things that you shouldn't be doing. So let's go ahead and start. Number 1, all right? Don't make the mistake. And listen, don't take this personal, but take it personal. Don't make the mistake of going broke trying to look rich. I want to tell you right now, do not let social media fool you, okay? Do not allow your dreams to drive you into unnecessary debt. Yes, there's sacrifices you have to make. Yes, sometimes, you're not going to get back the money that you spend. Yes, you need to invest in yourself, but also you need to do it smart. I literally know people out there that are literally driving themselves into financial debt and crisis, right? And putting their family behind because they're trying to look rich. They're trying to look like they're already there when they just started. It's okay to just start. When I just started, I was barely making ends meet, but I wasn't afraid to start small. I wasn't afraid to show people that I was growing because listen, people are inspired. Okay, people are inspired by perfection. I always say people are inspired by the things that you have, like people look up to that, but people are impacted. Please understand this. You can build a brand of inspiration, which is great, right? You can look on people's social media feeds and be inspired, right? You look at their life and like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by their life. You look at the car, oh my gosh, I want that life. That's cool, but inspiration runs out. You can build a brand of inspiration, or you can be like I did and build a brand of impact. People are impacted with your journey. And so there's people, I literally ran across a young lady, the other day. I was at my son's basketball tournament and she said, Trent, she let us in for free because she's like, you've done so much for me. I got to let you in for free. I'm like, thank you, because these tournaments costing a lot these days for these youth tournaments. That's a whole nother story. But she showed me on her phone. She said, look, I've been following you since 2015. And so I've been following you along this journey, and it's so beautiful to see this journey of where you started to where you're at now. Like there's people that want to follow the journey with you. But if you're not real about your journey, if you're trying to fake it till you make it, if you're trying to pretend that you're somewhere that you're not, they can never follow you along on your true journey. So I want you to understand, like, don't feel like you have to look a certain type of way for people to respect you. Don't feel like you have to have a certain amount of followers online for people to take you serious. You got to take you serious. And the first way you take you serious is by not faking it till you make it. Like, don't let social media fool you. There's people out there still failing, right? I'm one of them. I fail almost daily. Even though I say failure is only when you stop trying. But in the world's term of failure, yeah. There's people out there, understand, like, that are still out there losing day to day. There's people out there that are still trying, that are still progressing. Don't let social media fool you. I've seen so many people literally put themselves and their families in bad positions because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? Somebody that's been doing it 13 years and they're on their first year, but you're trying to keep up with the person that's been doing it 10 years, that has the revenue to be able to do certain things. But you want people to buy into the hype of you and not the real of you. Don't make that mistake. It's okay to show yourself starting small. It was okay for me to show people that I was selling t-shirts at the back of my trunk. I wasn't afraid to show people when I first started, like, hey, it's only 10 people that showed up to my speaking engagement. I was happy about that because I knew that's where I was starting. It wasn't going to be where I was finishing. So I want you to understand that, man. Don't make the mistake of going broke trying to look rich. And I'm not just talking about money. Like, don't make the mistake of buying followers that you don't need to have. Don't make the mistake of, trying to convince people that you're doing things when you're not. Don't make the mistake of living a filtered life, as I call it. Right? It's okay to be the real you. It's okay to show people like, this is where I'm starting at. Come follow me along on this journey because I promise you this might be where I'm starting at, but this is for damn sure where I ain't going to finish at. Because I got a mission, I got a vision that I'm hungry for, that I'm going to keep going no matter what. Okay? So don't make that mistake. Like, let the process do what the process does. Okay? People think the process is perfection. People think the process is that you start today, it's been a year, I should be, a millionaire within a year. I should have millions of followers in a year. Sometimes it happens, right? You go viral, people catch on to you. Not saying that that's the case, but the reality is it's not going to happen like that for most of us, for 99% of us. Let the process do what the process does. The process is there for a reason. The process is there to strengthen you and build you. The process teaches you things along the journey that no skipping steps could have taught you, that no faking it till you make it could have taught you, that no overnight success could have taught you. The journey isn't always beautiful, but the journey is always purposeful. So start telling yourself, this is a part of the process. If I do a live video and only 5 people show up, this is a part of the process. If I put out a product online and only 10 people buy it, 1 person buys it, this is a part of the process. If I'm starting something, the only people that show up are my friends and family because they feel sorry for me, this is a part of the process. Okay, so allow the process to do what the process does. And I want to say this before we move on to number 2. Don't make the mistake of hiring people, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but don't make the mistake of putting people on your payroll that don't need to be there. And what I mean by this is that I've seen so many people start off and like, oh, I have an assistant. Talk to my assistant. Listen, I'm not telling you not to have an assistant, okay? Do what you do. But if you're in a place where you have no business having an assistant, you're just starting off, like, your inbox isn't, your email isn't, requests aren't coming in like that, or you're not overwhelmed and you can handle it, don't sit here and pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for an assistant when you don't need one, just to tell people you have an assistant so you can look like you're doing major things when you're just starting off. People make that mistake all the time. When I first started for the first 3 years, who my assistant was? Me. I was my assistant, and I would just say this, if you're a mom out there or a dad out there, instead of hiring an assistant, putting somebody on the payroll that you don't need because you want to impress people that don't care, maybe you take that revenue and you invest it back in your business. Maybe you take that revenue and you invest it in a babysitter or somebody, who can, or maybe you put it into childcare if you have kids and give yourself more time and more freedom to be more creative. I see a lot of people trying to hire too quickly, trying to hire all these people. And I've even seen it with successful people and their business crash because they're trying to say, I want to have 50 employees, 60 employees, when they don't even need that many employees. I've seen literally people hire so many people to take things off their plate, but they brought more problems to their table. Literally, I've seen people like hire more people, think it's going to make their situation better, but it made their situation worse. Because now you're dealing with stress, you're dealing with different personalities. I've seen so much confusion within companies because you hire way too quickly. So ask yourself this question. Do you really need them on the payroll? Okay? Don't go broke trying to look rich. Number 2, this is a big one. It's not often talked about. Don't make the mistake of chasing blue check marks. When I first started the course, there's certain people in the world like The Rock or, huge people that if they shared your stuff, it will help you. But I want to tell you, it is still a trend. And we're going to talk about this in a second, right? Don't think that a blue check mark is going to change your whole entire business. Yeah, it might help it out. It might bring some notoriety to it for a little bit. It might, spike the trajectory a little bit. It might make your month a little bit better financially because somebody shouted you out. It might bring you some followers, bring you some engagement. But if you're dependent on a blue check mark to build your brand, I'm going to tell you right now, you're setting yourself up to lose. I have people in my inbox all the time. I try to help as many people as I can, but I have people in my inbox all the time that spend all of their time trying to get somebody with a blue check mark to put them on. Let me tell you something what's more powerful than a blue check mark. Community over celebrity. One of the things that I did that was awesome is that I didn't depend on celebrity to build my brand. I didn't depend on another man or woman to build my brand. I didn't depend on shout outs to build my brand. I didn't chase that. I wasn't in celebrities' inbox and saying, hey man, can you shout me out? Can you bring me on your podcast? And I'm not saying that don't do that because a closed mouth doesn't get fed. But the odds of them really responding to you because there's millions of people doing that is slim to none, and you're wasting your time. And you can take that same time instead of chasing blue check marks to build community, to invest that time in the people who believe in what you do, to invest that time into really pouring back to people who really support you. One of the genius things that I did that really wasn't genius is that I started saying rehabbers. And I started to put all my time into rehabbers because I said this, like, I'm not chasing blue check marks. I'm going to get to a place and a point, hopefully in my journey, if God says it's supposed to, if it's in God's will, that it's going to get to the point where they can't ignore me because the community is so big, and I'm going to allow my community to be able to take me further than any blue check mark celebrity could ever take me. So don't waste your whole entire time like chasing clout. And a lot of people, we do that. We sit there and we chase clout thinking that this person is going to really change our life and put us on. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to happen. Even if they shot you out, the world is so quick and turnover so fast that you can have something go viral today. People will forget about it tomorrow. Think about something that happened major in the news last week. People ain't even talking about it this week. And that's something that's major. People ain't even talking about it because turnover in this world is so fast because there's so much information. So number 2, don't make the mistake of chasing blue check marks. Please use that time, use that energy to pour it into building a real and a true community. Number 3, okay? And this ties into number 2. Don't make the mistake of being trendy. I see it a lot of times with brands that you follow trends. And I'm going to tell you something, when you follow trends, you don't really build a true identity. People don't really know who you are, what you stand for, because you're following the latest trend. And you're jumping on bandwagons. And even though that might bring you a lot of engagement, it might even bring you some notoriety. And I'm not saying that you can't build your platform off of it, but what it does do is it doesn't give you a true identity, right? It doesn't give you a place in the market, a place in your field of, uniqueness. Why do people come to you? If you're always following the trend, people don't know why they come to you, right? When I first started off, one of the things that I did was I made sure I saw holes, right? I saw holes in the business. I saw holes in the community. I saw holes in the platforms on social media. I didn't see anybody, speaking to a cell phone, being real, being raw, bringing that just heart, inspiration, motivation, transformation. I said, that's going to be me because that's who I am in my heart. And I see the gap and I see the void. I'm going to fill that void. Now you look at 13 years later, you see a line of people doing that. And I know I had a big part in starting that because I didn't want to follow the trend. So many of us, we follow the trend, and even in the word trend is in. Trend. Trends will always come to an end. So the thing that I want to tell you when it comes to building your brand, building your business, being a creator online, an influencer, your uniqueness is your greatest gift. You shouldn't start off being like, okay, I want to sound like Trent. I want to look like Trent. I didn't come out saying I want to sound like the greatest motivational speaker, Tony Robbins, or whoever it may be out there. I say, no, I'm going to be me because I want people to fall in love with my heart. And if I'm always disguising who I am, how can they truly fall in love with who I truly am at my heart and at my core? And so many of us, we trade in our identity for popularity. We trade in who we are to be who we think the world wants us to be. So I would tell you right now, one of the most genius things that you can do is create your own lane. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be slow. You might not go as fast, but you're building a foundation that's very hard to break. You're building a foundation that lasts forever. You're not trying to follow a trend. You're trying to create a lifestyle. Rehab time wasn't a trend, it's a lifestyle. And that's why people, they hold on to it so much, right? They take it to heart because it's something that isn't trendy, it's a lifestyle. It's a staple now in the motivation and inspirational world. Rehab time, people know it across the world is because I said, I'm gonna take the slow path. So yeah, me spending 3, 4, 5 years of, people not watching my content or slowly watching my content, people not coming to my, not a lot of people coming to my events, but slowly coming to my events. I said, I would rather do that than follow a trend that gets me hot for a moment. It gets me hot for 5 minutes and then it goes away. And I'm sitting here chasing the next trend, chasing the next clout. So I would tell you to stop following trends and just create your own, right? If you want to do anything with trends, be a trendsetter. Create your own lane. Disrupt the world. Be the person that brings something new, that brings something unique. Be a person that they haven't seen before. And we all have that because we all have uniqueness inside of us. That's our greatest gifts. You just got to have the confidence to bring that out. Number 4, don't make the mistake of partnering too quick. And I want to take my time on this one, okay? I am not against partnering. I think partnering is a beautiful thing, but you have to be very aware when you have a gift inside you, especially when you're first starting off. Because a lot of times when we're starting off, we don't really see our gifts. We don't see how special we are. But there's people out in the world that look to benefit off other people, that have a heart to literally benefit off certain people and really use their platform. Oftentimes, they can see your gift inside of you before you ever realize it. They can see your greatness inside of you before you ever realize it. And I see this a lot nowadays. And I'm not against partnerships, but I see people partner so quick with people they don't even know. Right? They partner so quick with people that they just met. And I'm not saying that it can't work out because there's unicorns in the world, right? Things can happen. There's exceptions to every rule. But the likelihood of something working out without really knowing that person, without really understanding how that person operates when things aren't going right, how that person operates when things are going great, because some of you, what you do is you partner and then you find out later on, and I made this mistake plenty of times, 2 or 3 times in my career. You find out later on oh, snaps, now I'm just really seeing who this person is. Because I want to tell you something. It could be a business looking at you. It could be a person looking at you, or it could be people with great intentions. But I always say you never know who a person is until failure shows up and success shows up. You know what I mean? So I'm going to tell you right now, don't make the mistake of partnering too quick with people that you don't even know. And ask yourself this question. Ask them this question. Ask them, what do you want from me? And I know sometimes that's a hard question to ask because it's like, man, that's kind of rude. But you have worked hard to build your brand. You've worked hard to build your business. You've put in sweat equity. I tell people now, I've spent 13 years, while you were doing whatever you were doing 13 years ago, 5 years ago, I've been doing this. So I'm going to ask you, what do you want from me? Because understand this truth. There's people out there, and I'm not trying to make myself like some super special person, but I never approach people with the intent of using them for myself, right? There's people in this world, I'm gonna tell you right now, that will position themselves as they're helping you, but in reality, they just wanna help themselves. So you have the right to ask them, what do you want from me? And they might sell you a dream and say, oh, I don't want nothing. I just see the greatness in you. I just wanna help you. Don't believe that hype. There's not many people in this world that just wanna help you just because, or just wanna partner with you just because. And it's okay for somebody to have a benefit for themselves. But those things should be explained. And so I see a lot of people when they build their brand, they sit there and they think about a void that they have and say, okay, I need to hire this person. I need to partner with this person real quick. Or I need to get around this brand. I need to get around this company. And literally you sell your soul, right? You sell your soul and you get to a point you realize like, dang, like these people aren't who they say they are. Like, dang, you realize, oh man, once it's like, let me just say this. I believe Jay-Z said this, and I could be wrong, but you never know who a person is until significance, fame, money becomes involved. Because a lot of you are partnering with people, you're starting from the ground up, you have great intentions, but I always say significance brings out who a person truly is. And if a person has lacked significance in their life, they've lacked finances in their life, you're going to see who they really are once they get those things. And oftentimes, man, they feel more entitled, to what's not theirs. They feel entitled to, taking credit for certain things they didn't do. And a conflict of interest happens and friction starts to happen. You know what I mean? So you got to be really, really careful when it comes to partnering with people and ask those questions, because people will come to you and they will show you some projections and say, oh man, like, look at what you can do if we partner together. That's great. That's cool. But I want to know who are you if that happens, right? And make sure you have paperwork, by the way. Paperwork protects you. I don't care if it's your family, your friends, whoever it may be. Have paperwork when you're partnering if you're going to do it. You need to have things that protect you. Don't let people say a handshake and it's good. No, forget all that. Have paperwork, okay? Because the paperwork is the facts. When feelings get involved, you go to the facts of the paperwork of which you agreed upon, et cetera, et cetera. But then also too, I tell people, like, that's cool to see the greatness in something, but I want to know, if we don't hit those marks, how is this going to go, right? If we struggling, how is this going to go? If we ain't hitting certain revenue marks and projections, how is this going to go? And I feel like people don't have those conversations because they're so quick to grow their brand, their business, that they would literally partner with anything that looks right. They will literally partner with anything that looks like they can help them. So I want to tell you to take your time and don't fall for the presentation, and understand sometimes you have to go alone and grow alone for a while. You know what I mean? And don't be afraid to be very protective over your brand, because at the end of the day, it's your brand. You know what I mean? It's not theirs. It's not, it's your brand. So be very protective over it. Last but not least, okay? And I'll leave it at this. Number 5, don't make the mistake of paying for stress. And this is kind of recapping a little bit what we talked about earlier, but I've made this mistake. I've seen a lot of people make this mistake, and I don't want you to make this mistake when building your brand. Is oftentimes we see talent, we see voids, and we pay for stress. And I said this earlier, and I want to say this again. There's people that can take things off of your plate, that can make your life a little bit easier in the moment. But sometimes those same people that are taking things off of your plate are bringing unnecessary things to your table. What do I mean by that? You might have a person that's very talented, that can help you, that can create for you, that can do some things that you can't do, that makes your life a little bit easier, right? That allows you to live in your unique ability, your gift, your genius a little bit more. But what you don't know is while they're doing that, they're bringing drama to your table, right? They're bringing unnecessary requests to your table, right? You're having to baby them and do all these things, all these things that now you're having to do just because they're talented. One of the things that I did well, and I would tell you to think like this, is find people not based upon their talent, but based upon their heart. Because I feel like you can coach people to perform a job. People can learn. People can grow. But you can't always find good hearts. Right? You can always find great talent, but you can't always find good hearts. And when it comes to building your brand, more specifically, hearts that believe in the mission. Not just believe in you, believe in what you're doing. Because when they believe in what you're doing, they're more invested in helping that thing become successful. Some of the people that I've hired over the years, and one of my greatest partners is someone whose life was changed through rehab time. So they understand just how powerful rehab time is. Right? They didn't come around me because I'm Trent Shelton, because they saw opportunity to make more money for it. They saw and they felt, they experienced just how powerful rehab time was for them. And so now they have the heart to be able to give this to other people. And it's one of my people that's been around for almost a decade in my business. I've had people come and go. But this is a person that is dedicated in their heart. And They've learned certain talents. There's people who was more talented to them in certain areas, but they didn't have the right heart. And this person passed them up in talent because they were so hungry to learn how to do certain things they weren't experts at, because they wanted to further the mission, because they knew how important the mission of Rehab Time was to them and is to this world. So I want to tell you, and I'll leave with this. One of the best things that I did when it came to growing my brand, and this is just a side note, like I talked about partnering before, but when you hire people, think about them as partners, okay? And make sure you do your due diligence, right? Make sure you understand who they are in good times and bad times, and make sure look at the patterns of how they act, right? Their emotional health. Look at all these things. But you want to partner with people, because when you partner with somebody, so I don't say I have employees, I have partners. And there's certain things in business where, you pay somebody to do a job and they can't be a partner. But I can tell you right now, and I'll talk about this maybe on a later podcast, but what changed my business the most within these last 3 years is I decided to give ownership to my partners. And when you give ownership to people and I say, listen, this is what I'm going to pay you, but you have no ceiling of what you can make in this company, in this brand. I'm giving you ownership over this thing. I'm giving you ownership over this area. And I'm going to give you a certain amount of percentage based upon how well we do. And I'm going to tell you, it changed my business. You say, Trent, why are you telling me this? Maybe you start looking as you're growing your brand, not just hiring employees that do a job, because when employees just do a job, they get used to it. They feel like, oh, okay, I'm never going to get a raise. And they just do the job and that's it. But when somebody feels responsible for the growth of the company, feels responsible for growth in their area, and they actually have a benefit in doing it, meaning more revenue to their life, right? More revenue, more benefits to their life, they're going to go at a different pace. They're going to operate at a different level than the employee would. So that's just a side note. I wish I would have done that earlier in my business, and my brand is man, instead of just having employees, I want to find people who really want to partner and really have the hunger to make certain things grow, and they get the benefit from that. And I can tell you it's 10x, 20x my business more than ever by operating like that. Guys, this episode is probably way too long, but I want to answer you guys' questions with that, because so many of you have hit me up over the years. You're still in my inbox, say, Trent, man, I'm building my brand. What's some mistakes you made? What would you tell me to do? These are just some simple things that I feel like if you avoid these things or you start doing some of these things that I talked about, it could really bring more peace into your life. It could bring more growth into your business. And it can help you build something that's not just a trend, but something that could be a lifestyle, something that can be forever, something that your grandkids could celebrate or want or take over, right? I'm not even thinking about a Rehab Time for myself. I'm thinking about my grandkids. I want this to be, which I believe it is, something that lasts for generations. Long after I'm gone, there's going to be people who talk about Rehab Time. And that was my mindset when I first started this thing in 2009. So guys, I appreciate you. I hope this helped you in some way. Maybe it's one thing, maybe it's a million things. Maybe you know somebody that needs to know and hear these things that we talked about today. Share it with people. I would greatly appreciate it. But like always, it all starts with you. It's Rehab Time. Let's get it straight up.